something that Brett had touched on was the exhaust port. That like a lot of people don't really focus on the exhaust port. I don't know if you've seen the Gen 5 stuff. It's pretty rough. It's
They're helping them out, and I'm
guys.
Yeah, and I was like, all right, sure, I'll help out. And Carl at Competition, he had got me a set of LT. They were like the GM Performance CNC'd ones, LT heads. Mm-hmm. And I looked at them, and I was like, and I floated them. I was like, oh, these aren't too bad, but they weren't that great. But I worked the exhaust. I got another 20 CFM or so out of the exhaust, and I was like, oh. And I think I tweaked the intake and messed with the angle on the valve, and it picked up, and I gave it to him, and he took him on the car, and he ran, I guess, 1050s or 1030s with the car. And at the time, that was fast, and he was all happy about it. And he was like, hey, and he got a vet, and he wanted me to do the vet. And I'm like, dude, I am buried right now. I was like, man, I'd love to help you, but man, I'm just trying to see daylight right now. Or my bed or something in the back of my eyelids. I'm like, dude, I'd love to help you, but, LT's not my game. And, and like I said, he's a good guy. Yeah. I'm telling you. I've worked the couple times I've had to mess with LTs. It's been so bad that I was like, dude, you can pretty much etch it in stone that it says never. and it's just the fault of just how complex it is, and the piggyback systems and the port injection.
It's easy, set it, forget it, lambda control, no big deal.
Right, and now that they got that, Dave Steck's got that box now, and I'm sure it's gotten a lot more plug and play savvy. But, at that point, I was like, well, if I'm doing port injection, what am I gaining with just going LT stuff? I'll just wait for BTR to get their canted valve heads, and I'll put that on there. And I'll be like LT with port injection. I'll be LT-ish, and I'll be right there in the game anyway. So I was like, I'm good.
So do you think the LS, is it the same deal? Is the porting lacking in the exhaust, or is it just people in general like me that runs inch 7/8 headers because haven't done it?
The LS stuff makes a big jump when you go, in my opinion, when you go to like the LS7 stuff, because the port gets raised, it gets a smaller cross section, so it starts getting closer to the LT realm. There's still some miscomparisons but you're kind of limited because most cases when you go to LS7 you got to have a big bore, and you're kind of limited. Richard sells at West Coast cylinder heads. He sells a small bore Brodix. That's LS7.
LS37, right?
Right. It's a BR7-3. It's basically LS7 valves, LS7 architecture in the valve train or the rockers, and then it has like an LS3 port, and that head does really good. But in most cases, I try to tell guys, if you're going to get a small bore head, just convert everything else to LS7. Go with an intake that'll take an LS7 intake and take all the benefit from the LS7 stuff, because it is better. Like, and a lot of times when I do the blower stuff, I'll get those thermal plates. Mm-hmm. I'll get an LS7 thermal plate, and then I just port match it to the LS3 blower, because it kind of straight, because the port's down low. When when it raises the port and then the spacer, it kind of straightens out the angle from the blower to the runner, so it helps. And then, man, they flow so good. It's just a more efficient head, and the LT head is just, like I said, it's a very high port, and it works really good. And it's canted valve. It's hard for a canted valve not to be a better head. Because the valves come away from the bore when they open. It's just got more breathing room. If someone makes a canted valve head and it doesn't flow better, then they just screwed it up somehow. Yeah. I don't know. And everybody's coming out with one. I think Frankenstein's got one now. I think they're still doing some revisions. BTR, they've got their LS1 series out now, and they're working on their LS3 series, which should be pretty awesome. I think, I don't know, Elbrock does. I think it's a Victor Jr. It's a canted valve. Yeah. But again, castings and getting stuff going seems to be a problem with them all right now at the moment.
Well, where do you think? So the cam stuff, I really want to get to that, because, like I've said 100 times, back when I had asked about cam specs and you had told me, I was like, this guy's full of shit. He's not telling me what he's really running, right? Because it didn't make sense. And again, I still don't know cams, right? I just know what I slid in a car and what worked. Okay, so it took me until the C7 to be like, let me see what he's talking about. And it literally broke my brain, the amount of power that thing makes and how small it is and the power curve. And why do you think so many cams are wrong?
Well,
and I'll say wrong, but
I think it started out just blind leading to blind. You know, the blower thing came out, and someone had to come out with blower cams dealing with boost, and a lot of them looked at the factory architecture. You know, it's like, oh, it's on a 121 lobe center, right? They closed the exhaust valve way before TDC, you know, so they looked at like an LS9 cam or like the factory cam, and they're like, we're just going to design cams based off of this.
But wasn't the LS9 cam was a pretty good cam, right?
It wasn't bad. It just didn't have a lot of lift. The lobes were lazy. Oh, sorry, excuse me. It didn't have a lot of area. So I guess in some cases you could try to like make it a little better, but it wasn't that big of a cam. It did good. I mean, I've had a car, I think I've had some LS9 cars go like 990s and stuff, but I've had stock longbacks go 930s. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I got Dan's cars on a 930 stock long block, so I was like, you know, blowers, they're kind of crazy, but it's crazy how bad you can screw them up with the wrong cam. When we went to messing with Brian, when he called me up, he was, you know, Brian Tooley has done a lot to bring his game up to the next level. Mm-hmm. They've invested a lot in the Spintron, lobe development, brought a lot of stuff in-house. I think they got some of the best design cams because they're one of the only people that they'll take, like, let's say their red hot cam. They actually they rough grind it into the red hot specs, they heat treat it, and then they final grind it. No one else does that. Everybody else kind of says these cams will work within this window, and they grind it and the heat treats within that margin. Brian said, you know what, I want the absolute most amount of heat treat. I don't have anybody ever calling me and saying, hey, I had a lobe fail because it went through the heat treat. Right. And he found the best cams, the best manufacturer who had the best, repeatability on heat treatment, and he found it. So it was impressive with some of the stuff he did, with what he's doing now with his new building and all his CNC equipment. So, but when he first started, he had a blower on a dyno with, I think James Shore's motor was on it. He was borrowing their motor, and they were doing blower testing. And he told me, it's like, hey man, we need some help. You know, we got a stock blower, and we're just, you could just tell them, it's like, listen, we just need someone, you know, we've tested the cams that we designed and we're selling. You know, and at one time, I remember reading articles that say, hey, the BTR3 picked up 60 horse over LS9 cam, and I was like,
but it killed the 60 foot.
No, it was funny. That dyno test was like a unicorn, because that was the only time it's ever picked up 60 horse ever. Because it just, for whatever reason, it just was unhappy. Whether it was who was grinding the cam or whatever it was, it just seemed like, but that cam was like, I mean, when I was tuning cars, it was like, let me guess, you got a BTR3 PDS cam.
Well, we all did it.
Everybody had it. Everybody had it because it was a big cam. You know what I mean? It was a stage 3. It's like, I want to make power. I want a stage 3 cam.
And they didn't have a 4 yet, so that's why.
They didn't have the 4 yet, and it just was like.
Well, we put it in Evan's car, and because we were already going 990, right? And we put the cam in there. We went 1030, and we tried and tried and tried and tried, and I think 1020 is the fastest we ever got. And I told Brian, I'm like, dude, I've got like 40 something cars that have this cam. Yes. And they're all struggling. You know, what can we do? I said, I'll get you data, I'll get you log, I'll get you whatever you need. And that's when he did the BTR torque cam, right? Which did help.
And that torque cam was really close to, it wasn't exactly, but that was like, I had a 223, 239.
I was going to say, looking at it now, I was like, oh, that's kind of trended to the direction.
Yeah, that was trended to what I had. And that cam did pretty good. That was the cam I put in Tim King's car.
We went 940 with that cam.
Yeah.
The same setup.
Yep.
So I'm like, what the?
So, and I had a car back when Dan was running we had the long blocks. Mm-hmm. I had Cody Rogers, Dan Hoare, and
stock long
Jacob Horn. Yeah, the three amigos doing the stock long block game. Everybody was chasing the number, and they were 2 930 cars and a 940 car, stock long blocks. Yeah. I think we put push rods in them because if you bang the limiter, it would bend it would bend an exhaust one.
When we went 990 in Evans, we pulled the valve cars because we were like, oh, something sounds weird. We had like 8 or 9 bent push rods.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh crap.
So, Yeah.
But that torque cam did really well. But again, I still didn't realize because I don't know cam stuff, I didn't know why it was so much better.
So when I was doing those testing, one of the guys was like, hey man, I really want to put a cam in the car. And he was kind of like, do you got something like laying around? I was like, I got a BTR Stage 3. I was like, I'll sell it to you. It was like a takeout. I was like, dude, I don't know if I gave it to him or it was $100. It was like, I think I told him he could have it. But any case, put it in the car went 960, slowed down. And I was like, and he was like,
I mean, that's about right, because we lost 4/10.
It dropped way back. And I was like, I was like, I kind of thought that might happen. Sorry. And it's funny because when you look at the cam, it's like, I was like, well, it is designed around what you were, you know what I mean? You do the math and I'm like, man, that should work. And it was hateful.
Well, that goes to the dyno stuff versus the the track testing.
When they brought me in for the dyno, they had already been through that cam and they're like, yeah, we went through all our cams and we actually, now that we got a dyno, we're testing this, and we threw them all away. Like, they're gone. We're getting rid of all of them. And they wanted to start off scratch sheet. They said, hey, if you're willing, bring I brought a blower. I brought a standard CNC Kong, which was like pretty, I want to bring something that's pretty practical, like what is realistic to what people are using. So I brought a 103 ported CNC Kong, and then I brought one of my race blowers. And we started throwing cams in there, and oh man, it was a real eye opener, because Brian's got, like, next to the dyno, there's this shelf, and there's like,
oh yeah, I've seen it.
It's like just like cams everywhere, and it's like,
which one do you want?
Ooh, let's see. Let's try this one. And we even tried something like the old BTR3, but it was on like a 114 plus 3, because it's like, well, the exhaust center line looks right. It's just got a little bigger intake. I was like, maybe this one will carry the power a little up top, or maybe it'll do something new and different we haven't seen before. I mean, it wasn't terrible, it wasn't hateful, but it just lost power everywhere.
And just for clarity, it's not only Brian's cams, it's like blower cams in general.
Well, here, going back to the beginning, so Brian was one of the beginning people to start, he was in the LS game for a long time, and he started selling at BTR Stage 3. Mm-hmm. And then you get some magazine like Hot Rod that says, hey, we went from LS9 to this BTR Stage 3. We picked up 60 horse. And they're like, man, picked up 60 horse with a cam swap. And everybody just followed suit. It was just everybody NASCAR, everybody Daytona NASCAR right behind Brian, and everybody had their version of a BTR Stage 3.
So that's what it is.
So when none of them did good, there was like LME, Cam Motion, everybody else, I didn't, but everybody else had their version of a BTR Stage 3. They all copied off of Brian. So a lot of times if you see Brian's cams now, they're his cam specs are kind of a little subtle. They're like, we're going to kind of tell you what it is. It's maybe not exactly what it is, but
that's the stuff that we do with the LT stuff, the PD, I have the Stage 1, I had the 2, I had the 3, and I had other cams, and I dynoed all of them. I think I even talked to you about this too. And I was like, the 1 makes more power than everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't get this. I'm not really sure what to do with this information.
Yeah.
But I'm going to stick this one in my motor for now.
Yeah.
But it just seemed like everybody followed suit, and I got to the point where that's why we pushed Evan's car, because we knew that people with cams were going slower than us. I just didn't know why. And then, I was like, it's time we try a cam. Everybody had that.
Yeah.
I was new to the game, so I went with it. But when y'all did the blower testing, how did that go? Or the cam testing?
Oh, it went pretty good. I got lucky because, like I said, I was at the beginning, and we did lose the motor. We started out with their Stage 1 cam, which is similar to what you got. Mm-hmm. That cam did great. And I brought a cam that was a little bigger than that. And mine had a little more aggressive profile, a little different theology, I'd say, to it, because, as much as we all do camshafts and stuff, we all look at different principles. Brian's
all about durability too.
Brian is very big on durability, which he should. He's not. I'm more selective. Like, I don't sell thousands of cams like him. He's selling thousands of them. I'm selling them
because nobody can find you.
Yeah, that's right. So I sell mine to a unique few, and most of the time I don't like selling cams. Like, he has shelf cams and people just click buy. Me, in most cases, it's like, well, what are you doing?
Right.
Well, what are you looking to do? Like, do you drive the car? Do you not drive the car? So most of the time I'm spending time with someone when they sell the cam. I don't just say, very rarely, unless Joe LaBruza buys something from me and sells, drop ships it, am I just, oh, here's a cam, and they just walk out the door with it. Most of the time I've talked with them. There's been some type of interaction, and I was like, hey, listen, I think this is the best fit for you. And there's times I've talked people out of cams. It's like, no, you don't need that. You need this, or you need this. A lot of people are like, I don't race the car. I was like, well, what do you want a cam for then? Or what are you looking for?
That chop, dog.
Yeah, it's a lot of times it's a chop. And I was like, okay, so we need chop, but we need durability. We don't need to be, we're not looking for 200, we're not looking for 100 horse out of a cam. As long as it's about the same or a little better and it's got that torque, we're good. So yeah, it's a little different perspective, but Brian's approach is on cam, and he's a super smart guy. He's real big on intake valve closing, exhaust valve opening, and he pivots a lot of his stuff. I'm a little more I'm a little bit of an open-minded thinker, because I think of motors a little more dynamically. Every cylinder head flows a little different. Everybody's exhausts, headers are different. There's so much things that could be different on the car. Compression, fuel, all that stuff. And it all plays into it a little bit. So I have more of a artsy, I take a little more of a artsy feel to things. And I kind of like, listen, I think this cam is closer to what you need. It may not be specific, but I was like, listen, I know this will be really close to what you need. It may not be absolute, but I don't think you can get much closer than this. And in some cases, I've gone pretty big on cams with the 1900, and it's done well. Like Tim's new cam, he's got like I have like a 227, 255 cam.
I love how you said that's big.
It is big for a 1900.
The average cam for a 1700, people are like, was it 230, 235 or 237, 250 something or 240 something?
You know why?
And I'm like, what is this?
That's because people think of that as a hot stroker cam. So like that would be like a hot, 416 cam for an LT that they're spinning the guts out of it. So they think, well, if that's a good NA cam, we'll just tweak it a little bit and it'll be an awesome boost cam. And maybe in some perspective, maybe it comes in and it works out, but
it doesn't though, because they're way slower cars. Like I thought it was like all tune stuff related, but it wasn't.
So the biggest thing that I find that affects the blower is that, in the way just the way I look at it, is that the exhaust event has way more influence how the blower fills the cylinder, because there's no runner to it. It's just a big plenum with some boost on it, and there's like literally no runner. It's just a plenum and intake runner. It's that big. So you don't have like a large runner with a charge. There's no charge event hardly. And it's kind of like a funnel. And then in some cases it's a really crappy funnel. It's got injectors in a way. It's got this hard corner. So you're trying to overcome a lot of stuff. And when I was on the dyno, when we started running too much intake runner, we started seeing like weird stuff happen, like the boost. One thing that was weird is we didn't see big boost swings. Like when we put way too big of a cam, it wasn't like, oh man, this thing made only 10 pounds of boost. We made 15 or we made 14, we made 15 and a half, but we didn't see big swings of boost, but we'd see big swings in power. So what happened was like when the intake valve closed a little late, we were getting reversion, where you'd see like we had 8 wide bands on it, and like cylinder 7 would be really lean and it would go like dead rich, and you'd have cylinder 3 go from dead rich to like really lean. You had huge swings in the cylinder, and as soon as we started closing the valve a little sooner and tightening up making a little smaller intake lobe and leaving the exhaust alone, you could see all the narrow bands start tightening up, and it's like, ooh, it like that. And even when I went to comp, I did something similar. We did that 2650 testing with the 427, and we had free reign. And we were hoping to test more cams, but Cal called me and says, hey, listen, comp will grind us whatever we want. Just pick like 2 cams and we'll run them. And then when we go there, they can grind something on the spot if we think we want to tweak it. And man, the first cam I put in there was like the smallest cam, was a 225, 255. Aggressive lobe, had 650, 660 lift. But man, that thing picked up like almost 50 horse. It was 48 horse. and then it carried the power was like 60 horse up top. It was like ridiculous how much power we picked up, and it was just like it was a relief because when you try something over here and you try something over here, if it doesn't follow, you're like, yeah, I'm lost.
Because you went, because you went both ways, and then you're like, well, that gives me no direction.
And with Brian, we had a lot of time on a dyno, and he had so many cams on the shelf. I was like, let's try this cam. Let's try this cam. Let's try this cam. Let's try this cam. And we got to see a lot of stuff. And I want to say I got lucky. The last cam was a new cam I had. It was a 223, 247. I still have it. That thing picked up 20 horse everywhere.
Yeah, everybody's going to try to cut those specs, not
but
thinking.
They can't.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Because there's so much in the low profile and stuff. I had guys trying to copy my old like Dragmaster that I used to run and stuff. And it could be better.
Was it Boostmaster or Dragmaster?
The Dragmaster, back when I was doing NA stuff.
Oh, okay.
Guys would be like, we don't need to buy Rick's cam. I'll just call Cam Motion and grind it. Well,
right, because that's how it works.
And they would just pick a 223, 231, and they give it 629 lift, but they'd use like an XA lobe, and I'm like, dude, that lobe is lazy, dude. Yeah. Like that.
And for NA, you can't have that.
Dude, that thing is that thing is dragging the brakes bad. So but people were like, man, I put a cam in, and they'd call it like something similar, but they would go to the track and it's like, man, this thing's down like 3 or 4 mile an hour. It's like, it's not the same cam.
Yeah.
And the lobe area has a lot to do with how a cam works. These Frankenstein heads, I float them, and my biggest problem with the Frankenstein is the architecture can be a little heavy on them, but
as in like just the heads full of mass.
They use long valves.
Okay.
They kind of gave a lot more room for better ports and whatnot. It just gave, like the mastheads, they use a longer valve. So, I got them, and they're a common head. People love running the M311 Boost Monster. I was like, listen, I've got to get with the program, and I got to figure out something to tell these guys because I don't want to keep guessing on what to put in this thing and what'll live and won't live. When I put them on the flow bench, man, you put some lift to them, man, those heads will scream. And I called back when Steve was working with Cam Motion. I said, listen, this is what I got. This is what I'm looking to do. And he designed a couple lobes for me for using it. But I said I need a lot of lift, but I need to keep the valve in check. So he gave me a real mild lobe.
Like a softer lobe.
A soft lobe, but it had it's 654, 671. And that thing is a beast. So
I've noticed they do really well, but the biggest issue I see is people overtime them. Like they don't seem to like the timing very much.
The M311s seem to be fine. They like fuel. Like I've got a set of M311s on a customer's car's fast, but when it's just anywhere close to being a little lean, it gets mad. Like it'll start like the car slowed down. Like I had a car, he was an X98, and it would take like 24 degrees. The car would run 880s. He converts it to methanol. When he converts it to methanol, it didn't have quite enough pump and it got a little pressure drop. So it was leaning out a little bit, like instead of being somewhere in the low 9s, it was like 1030s, 990s, and it would rattle. Like it even nipped a plug. Jeez. And I couldn't keep 20. Like I had to put the timing down to 20 to 22 degrees. I was like, dude, this is M1. I should be maybe at 24, 25, And it was the opposite way. And the car slowed down. And I was like, I felt bad. I was like, man, this just, in my brain, there's got to be something wrong. I said, hey, man, if you can, we put a JMS on the pump. We put a JMS on the primary pump on it, feeding it, and went back to the track, got the AFR when needed, picked right back up. Car picked up like, man, at least 3/10. We went from like running 570s, 580s all the way down to 550s. I mean, it made a huge swing.
Do you think that the fueling is mostly because of the valve angle?
It could be a lot of things. It could be of how efficient it's moving the air. Like the more air you get in the cylinder, more cylinder pressure you get, the more it is. It could be the chamber design and how the quenches and how the swirl is in the chamber and whatnot. There could be a lot of things to it. I know a lot of guys that tested like the 710 and 310 heads because it's a 10 degree and the way the air enters the chamber, they said you got to be careful with it because it can get mad really quick.
And when it gets mad, it's like detrimental.
Yeah. So like I said, but I put fuel in the car and it picked up and like I said, this car's flying. So, so far I've got a lot of guys running it, and it's a pretty common hit. I just hope that the Chinese tariffs don't run the price through the roof.
You're not from China.
No, they're from the United States, but a lot of the castings all come from the same place.
I know. So something on the cam stuff, and again, we've talked about this. I noticed the intake temp thing, and I've noticed my brick doesn't get dirty at all anymore, because it did before.
Well, I remember I talked about the fuel cross talking. It's the reversion. Yep. You don't get that reversion pulse in the blower. Now, granted, if you're cruising a lot with the car, you're going to get reversion in the blower, but when you got a big cam, it's just much worse.
Well, in the LT stuff, I've noticed, and I've had it with people, they pull the bricks out, I'm like, wait, look at something. They're like, oh man, my bricks are really dirty. I think it's from my, they're like, I think it's from my catch can. And I'm like, it's on the bottom side of the brick. I'm like, the bottom's dirty. The part where the port is.
Yeah.
I was like, it's not the top. It's not your catch can. I'm like, it's because you got that big stupid cam in there, and it's just spitting the fuel back and the oil back through.
It's just kicking back into the blower. So
why do we not gain intake temp? Like if I leave the line and
because you're cooling the charge and you got fuel to it. When you get reversion back in it and you got a bunch of fuel in it, you get cooling from the fuel charge, and it's still intercooled. You still got like you got the brick in it. The brick's right above the port, right? Mm-hmm. If you got a reversion wave going through that brick, it's just going back and forth through it, so you're not going to see the temp in it.
Well, what if say what was it, the 235, 240 something cam, we'd make a pass in a specific car, and it would go anywhere from, if we started at like 110, we'd be 140 at the back. That same car, all we did was you pulled the cam out, put the stage 1 cam in there, and if it was 120, it was 115 out back.
Yeah.
But like,
yeah. Well,
it makes no sense to me because I don't know how that's working. But
to me, it's just a reversion charge,
But was LSA like that? Is that why some of these guys have insane intake temps?
Oh man, there's so many. These cars are getting so old now. There's a million reasons why they got high intake temps. You know what I mean? The bricks collapsed. It's corroded. The lines are kinked. The pump's dead. The hoses are kinked. Something's messed up. They've cavitated the pump. How many times have I gotten it where they make a pass and I was like, dude, your ITs are like 280 degrees. What happened? I don't know. I iced it. I was like, is it moving water? And there's that pause. And I'm like, is it moving water? Well, the ice was kind of melted when I got back. I said, yeah, it's hot out. Did you check it? And sure enough, the pump isn't moving nothing. You have to like resuscitate it and try to get it to pick up water again.
At least the original LSA pump would just keep running.
Yeah. It went rear. It would just
on the C7 stuff, like I can't tell you how many times I go to tune a car and I'm like, intake temps are 280. And I'm like, dude, what is, because they come to me for the tune and they're like, oh, my car's slow. And then I see it and I'm like, because you have no blower coolant at all, but they don't kick a light or anything. So I've had to start going into the table and cutting the boost at a certain temperature, just like turn it off. So they're like, hey, something's not right.
Yeah, this thing's messed up.
We didn't have that option on there, but
because a lot of these will come in and like, if it's old, it'll have the factory pump. The pump's not even running anymore. You turn the key on, it's like, and it's running. It's not even moving water or nothing. And you turn it so it's on all the time. It's like you bang on the pump with a hammer, and it might start running, and a lot of times it's just shot.
So on the cam stuff, something I've also noticed when we went from the big cam, right? Just because I know this specific situation, we were making.
Well, you also got to remember going back to the cam. You said it dropped. A lot of times you changed and made the cam smaller. The exhaust was a lot different, a lot better.
Well, the boost would go from like 21 to like 18, but the car, time-wise, like 60 to 130 is what we had tested on that car, and that car went from like a 440 to a 390 by changing the cam, and that's massive.
Yeah.
We didn't do the track a lot because C7 diffs suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so is that you would see the drop in boost, but you're like, oh man, it's a smaller cam. This doesn't make sense. But in my mind, it makes sense because the stock cam makes so much. If we push the stock cam, we'll make 850 almost 900 on a stock cam with the LT4, but like we're at 22 pounds of boost up top.
Dude, the LT4 cam specs, if I remember right, it's like a 188 on the intake and like 224 degrees on exhaust.
Two something, yeah.
It's like...
It's very big exhaust, very little intake.
Yeah, it's microscopic intake. So, I mean, for like a cam, but they, for the most part, they make good power. And, you keep pouring to them. Trick is, follow the same concept and just put the exhaust to it. Like, the harder you need to spin the motor, the more exhaust it needs. It's more dependent on the exhaust than it is the intake. Intake it is, it's important, but man, the exhaust is make or break. If that exhaust doesn't scavenge right at the cylinder head when that exhaust valve is closing or something, it just lays over. Like if you remember right, like those like 120 plus 5 or 120 plus 4 cams
that everybody had.
They would just lay over. They'd hit like 6,300
dead, and
they would just start. I mean, they would just crash. Mm-hmm. When I worked with the Morrises, we got the 2650. They got a new cam, and it was like a 119 plus 5, and we had a Asylum cam in it for 4, and it was more traditional. Like when I looked at the cam, I was like, man, Asylum's cam is actually pretty good. I was like, it looked big and had a lot of exhaust on it, but that thing made 1,120 horsepower. Or it was 11 and it was around 1120 something. We put this new motor together. It's supposed to be, better heads, better cam, and it followed the old school blower cam. That thing lost 120 horsepower. Jesus. And it wouldn't care. It was worse. The more boost you put to it, the worse it got. Like when we tried putting pulley on it, because they're like, oh, it's designed for more boost. So it's going to allow you, the cam, it's messed up, but it's designed so you can put more boost to it and make more power, It got worse. We put more pulley on it. It lost more power. I was like, holy cow.
And it makes more heat.
Oh, yeah. It was horrible everywhere. Everything.
Because when we pulleyed that car up to 21 pounds on that other cam, because we're like, dude, this thing should be faster than this. But I'm like, dude, I was like, it's weird is I'm picking up like another 15 degrees of intake temp. And I'm like, something's not making sense. And that's when I finally did that blower test and finally it went that route. But it just didn't make a lot of sense. But at what point, how do you know that, so this one's like a 217, how do you know where that next step is and how do you not overcam it?
Well,
I know that's very general, but.
Yeah, on a blower car, it's always safer to undercam it than it is to overcam it in most cases. I mean, look at how fast the vet is. But when you're trying to get to that next level, it's hard to get because the blower, it's in this envelope. And it's hard to manipulate the blower to get more with that bigger cam. It just doesn't want to do it. You have to almost change the whole combination and shift the power curve up. And that next size cam up, it's really specific. You know what I mean? You don't just tell someone it's like, oh, I'll put the bigger cam in it. Even when I just did a couple of ZR1 vets in it, and I always think I was like, man, maybe I should have stayed with the smaller cam because a lot of these roll race cars, the manuals especially, like they're too hot for second, so they're lugging third. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They can't. Really, they need to start from second, but it's like whoop, whoop, they're all over, so they're, and it's like, man, you put that one size up cam, and it dogs them a little bit. It's like it kills it. You know what I mean? Just has to kill it enough off down low where.
But the one thing I have noticed is the tuning for that stage 1 cam when you have like my setup like a 2650 or something. Man, people blow an LT4 up quick because they don't realize that. And that was Brian's concern. He's like, man, I know you like the stage 1 cam, but like, what if they put that in there and they don't adjust timing for it? I'm like, well, that's a tuner problem. That's not my problem. That's
just like,
I'm like, it works, but if you lug it, you're going to hurt it.
It's no different than saying, well, they're putting a 2650 on to begin with. I mean, you've already stepped into that next, well, what if they blow it up? I was like, they're putting a 2650 on. They've already stepped in that realm of, don't mess up.
And I guess what I'm thinking into that is the guys that run more pump gas and stuff like that, should they just go to a larger cam? Because if not, they're probably going to hurt something.
Yeah, that's always a big toss-up, like putting a bigger cam in it, but you're almost doing the same thing. It's almost like, just take pulley out of it. You know what I mean? Why
they don't want you tell somebody to do that and they're not doing it.
I know. So I mean, put a bigger cam in, it does help. It does bleed off some cylinder pressure, and it does shift the power curve up. You just got to be careful on the intake. Like I said, it's really easy to put too much intake lobe on it and just kill it.
Do you think the LT is more sensitive because of how big the intake already is? How big the port already is? Or
no, it's just about efficiency. You know, if that intake's doing everything it needs to do with a small lobe, when you put a bigger one on it, it's just like, well, what do you want me to do with that?
Yeah.
It's just too much. You know what I mean? And that's where the fine line is of not enough to too much. You know, if you give it more and it doesn't want it, you're just wasting it. So
I guess that kind of segues into like the throttle bodies and stuff. So a lot of people will be like, "Oh man, I ported the blower and I didn't pick up anything."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, maybe it's because you have a crappy cam and you didn't."
That's the same thing with the 2650 and going to the bigger cam. It's like, oh, I put the bigger cam in. Man, I thought I should have picked up more power. I was like, what throttle body's on it? Oh, I've got this one on it. And what intake's on it? So really, you're trying to get it to move more air by just the cam, but the blower is the main pumping part of it, and you haven't allowed it to feed it more. You know what I mean? You've probably got, the cam would have probably picked up, say 20, let's say it picks up 25 or 30 horse, but it only picked up 5 or 10. Well, the other of it's in your filter, your intake, and your throttle body. I was like, it's there, but you've handicapped it to the intake part of it, or maybe you've got 1 7/8 headers on it, and you're like,
leave me alone.
Oh, well, I can't find bigger headers. Well, you know, and that's.
I'm going zoomies now, so don't worry about it.
You'll be happy. She'll be really happy with those.
Oh, she will. I'll never drive the car again, but she'll love it.
I'm gonna drive it now.
But yeah, no. When I did I put the 2650 on, I left the stock intake with the filter, and I'm like, this thing makes 6 pounds of boost. Pull the filter off, 12. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
But I think that leads into the common mistakes that people are making is they're not thinking of the whole picture.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, I did this and this and this, and you fucked the whole combo up. Nothing's happy anymore.
Yeah, it's all of it, and that's where I got into going all the way back to the 1900s and doing the porting and stuff like that. For a while there's that map sensor. It's on the snout, and no one talked about it. No one looked at it.
I looked at it for sure because I'm like, well, that's weird. This thing's
we're
picking up vacuum.
We're doing all this port work, and I was like, man, this thing's pulling like 5.5 inches of vacuum, wide open. I was like, if this was an NA car, I'd be like, dude, that's a lot of power. So that's what led me into it. I was like, you know what, 2650, 2300, doesn't matter. I was like, if you can't get the air to the blower, what does it matter? You get the bigger motor, the bigger blower will probably overcome the vacuum a little better, but you're eating a lot of power, and then people are driving over pulleys or keyways and breaking cranks or whatever, trying to make power
because the blower's
they're
fighting
all the restrictions that you're too lazy to fix. So, and that's why I do the big 120 Nick Williams on the 1900s.
So before all that happened, how did you come around once you started making everything work and flow behind the blade, but you were still stuck with the 103?
Well, the 103 was a handicap. That was a big problem for a while. It wasn't until Nick Williams came out with the 112, which evolved into the 120, that really stepped up the next level. But that's just the part of the whole program with the superchargers. Once one guy does it, and one guy's leading the way, other guys get tired of being like the slower blower.
Yeah.
Whether it's Kong or Jokers or anybody, they're like, listen, you know what? This is my niche. I shouldn't be chasing. I should be leading the pack, not chasing the pack. Because that's if you're a tuner, you don't want to be the slowest tuner. If you're a supercharger guy, you don't want to have the slower supercharger. You want to have the supercharger. And I think Kong, when he I was talking to Nick Williams about the 138. I had no idea Kong, and I had talked to Kong about a billet snout because Richard was just having a hard time getting the CNC done, and I'd been waiting like 5 years. So I had already breached, the subject with him about maybe making a billet snout. I said, listen, I really like Richard, and he's already got a design. I just wish he could get it finished, and it just didn't quite happen. And then next thing you know it, whether it was 6 or 8 months later, Kong's got this 138 with this billet and with his export, and that thing just screamed. And it was pretty impressive. I think Jake ended up going like 750s with it with this car, which was flying. It's only it's just only a few steps refined to 2650.
Did you see that blower that guy Jason Staples made?
That's the guy I was talking about. He was
Yeah.
at Bragging Rights when I talked to him.
That thing was wild.
But that was going back to the big intercooler thing. You know, at some point, it's gonna cost you power than more. You know what I mean?
Right. There's diminishing returns
There's
at some
diminishing
point.
returns. I was like, listen, if a brick this big will get you, let's just say it gets you 90 or 95%. A brick this big is going to cost you 15. You know what I mean? At some point, it's just too much.
Didn't at one point Cal tried running methanol with no brick, but he said it didn't help?
Way in the beginning, he did. But there's a lot of things to look into it. It is a restriction, but it is taking your air charge and
Straightening
making
it?
way denser. It's making it denser. You know,
Okay.
like how many times you ran a blower and the ice tank didn't work, but you made 3 pounds more boost. You know what I mean? Usually makes 215 kPa, and now it's 240. It's like, whoa. It's because it's not condensing the air anymore. So when you dense the air charge, you get more in the cylinder. So when you don't run like a brick and heat exchanger, you're running something like methanol that's cooling the air charge. You gotta do stuff like
It's cooling air charge too late then.
yeah, it is. But in the same sense, you gotta do stuff like look at the cam. It's like, well, maybe we need a few more degrees on the intake. Maybe that 217 isn't gonna work, but maybe the 227 will work, and maybe the 230 will work because now you've got a lot less dense air charge. Now, granted, and you got more boost, so it'll overcome that reversion charge. But it's all couch theory.
Yeah.
It's like, But in his case, the only thing he changed was pulling the brick. He lost power. And once it happened, he's like, all right, that was a bad idea. Put it back in and never revisited it.
Right.
You never tried, now he's got a solid roller. Things are a little different. He wants to revisit it. It's just, it never, it hasn't crossed his path where he was able to do it on a dyno and actually check it back to back. So maybe someday he'll cross that bridge again, but he hasn't yet.
So I've watched when you've done the 19 and the 2300, and I mean you've interchanged them and make like the same power.
Yeah, I've always spun the 2300 a little less than the 1900.
That's how I could tell what blower you had, because if it had a big pulley, it was the 2300.
It was a small, it was the 1900. So with the 1900 has always been RPM tolerant. It doesn't seem like
It seems to be your favorite blower.
Well, it's the most common too. I mean, I've always favored my customer base. Everybody runs 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
Why? It's just like my G8. It's like, why are you still messing with a factory blower and a 6L80? I was like, it's because everybody I have
Has that? Yeah.
Everybody that follows the whole herd behind me is like, that's what they got.
That's why I haven't went turbo. I want to go turbo.
Once I step away from the Panford, it's like I abandon all of them, and I feel like I abandon all the people that I work with. So, and I don't want to do that. So, working with this and pushing it more, it's important to me. So,
well, it's important to everybody.
Oh yeah, but
because obviously we're all following.
Yeah, but to do it like doing the 138, like Kong really got onto something when he did that blower with the 138. And again, I know he's working on a lot of other stuff, and of course I do my things with the rotors and my special stuff to get my little edge on things. But I've been collaborating with him a little bit because I want to keep pushing it forward, because the longer we drag our feet, the more further behind it is, and the more people we lose on the Supercharger pace. It's a good platform. It's the easiest thing to do. I mean, anybody can bolt a Supercharger on and throw a belt on it. But as soon as you say turbo, it's like everybody has. It's hard to make it. Everybody's look at all the shops that tried to make turbo kits. As many as they tried, none of them fit everybody.
Right.
With a blower, I can just change a pulley, but oh man, I want to run 64s or I want 62s. Well, the kit won't work with 64s. It hits, the exhaust.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The housing hits, or the downpipe's not big enough, or they won't tuck underneath the car, or it's always something. It always seems like the kit's got to be a custom kit. You know what I mean? It's hard to make like a universal kit that. And then when you make the bolt-on kits, it's like you could have been that fast with the blower.
Yeah, arguably that. Yeah.
all the like bolt-on kits is like, yeah, that's not fast. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's where it comes down to. It's like, you should have just kept the blower on. All that work. You can't change spark plugs. You burn wires every other day. You know.
I think a lot of that was
IATs.
we went with too big of turbos, and I didn't realize back when we started.
When you go to turbos and you want to make some good power, to overcome the 60-foot game, you gotta have a trans brake.
Or you just go with the right turbos, which we didn't do.
Yeah, but even when you go with the right turbos, it's really hard to get the 60-foot 330 out of them. You know what I mean? You could do.
I mean, that's you're not wrong.
You can play with timing, and you can do stuff. But when you look at the broad spectrum of things, it's like there's no one that went turbos that's on the foot brake game that's like running like sevens.
Nope.
You know what I mean? It's not like
it's not for lack of trying.
Right.
Once we loaded it hard enough, it would start killing the 1, 2, 3, 4 clutch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at a certain point, I was just like, it's a loss. You know, 840, 830s, we're good. We're just anything past that, it's not going to happen.
No one in the late model game, no matter what it is, that's on the foot brake game, there's no one walking away from a blower setup.
Yeah.
They all have gone to some type of trans brake where they can run a bigger turbo, get the boost up, and get it off the line. You know, you take away that trans brake, and they're a bunch of ducks.
Yeah. And I just hate.
Now, granted, you get roll racing is a different story because they can drag the brake and they're already
going.
Yeah,
you get a blower car next to us in a roll race, you are fucked. You are getting. I'm going to let you go, count 2 Mississippis, and still get you.
I've had a couple of guys bring turbo cars, and I was like, "Here, watch this. You drag the brake and grab the gas, and I was like, "What? You let go of the brake?
Yeah, it's over." But that's I followed the same thing. Like I haven't swapped my C7, even though like I know turbos would be the way. I want my customer base to be relatable. But the 1.7 versus the 1.9 versus the 2300, is there something different between the blower that makes one better than the other, or?
If you could get, like, I've done some stuff with the 2300, and it shows that with the changes I've done, it's being a little more RPM tolerant. Whether it's just it happens to be a good rotor pack or not, because I've been running the 2300, and I always try to like rev it a little more, push it a little harder. I'm like, ooh, the rotors look okay. As long as the rotors look okay, put a little more pulley on it. You know, I'll call up, Z Industries and be like, hey man, can you make me a 2.4 12 rib? Because the 2.45 seems to be doing pretty good, and just a little bit more. And as long as I watch it and the airflow's climbing, the boost is climbing, I'm like, potential's there. It's making more airflow. It's making more boost. If it's not faster, then I have something wrong with my program. There's something wrong with the cam. I don't have enough fuel to it. There's too much timing, not enough timing. Something's not right. But the airflow is there. It's feeding it the air. I just got to get the power out of it somehow.
Why do you think all the guys that swapped to 2300 never went faster?
Because most of the guys that had 2300s were choking the intake charge. You know what I mean? All my 2300s have the conversions now with a big 120 on it. I'm feeding it. And I've opened up the intake. I've got the rotors done. It's got the architecture to make power. And when you have that, you can do something with bigger. It's just like,
because I think everybody was running 103s back then, or 102. Sorry.
When you're on a 103, the 1900 is more efficient. If you got something that uses, if the 2300 takes 180 horse to turn and the 1900 takes 150 horse turn, I can
maximize one and not the other.
I can maximize one, and this one doesn't. The other one's takes a bigger tax penalty turning it. So I was like, well, this one's a better deal. So I'll just stay with this one. So,
well, you're something.
And one of the reasons I got 2300s on my stuff is because
all your 1900s are cases.
No one wants to overpay for the stupid cost of a 2300.
Yeah, they're expensive.
They're like, oh, so you're telling me I can run just about the same with the 1900 and it's like $3,000 or $4,000 less? Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm not. So I get stuck with them. So I usually kept a 1900 on my V. But every time I had one in there, someone needed a race port, and I didn't have time to do it. So I would pull my race port off. I'd sell it. I'd take the core and put it on the ground till I can see it or do something with it. And I'd take my spare 2300 and put it on my Cadillac. So it seemed like any time I got a stupid race blower done and ready on my car, someone would need it, want it, buy it, and I'd be like, well, here goes my 1900 again. I'm back to the 2300. And I could run the same either way. But, I mean, let's see, I think I went 858 the last Cadillac attack with it, and but I won't push that one that hard because it's a 4-bolt block, and I don't want to mess it up. That's been a good block.
Luckily, with the turbo stuff, we could put the power upstairs.
Yeah, well,
But-
turbo stuff is just, it's way easier and softer and stuff. It's just,
That's something a lot of people don't realize, that the blower stuff is real rough. I mean, it's got that hell of a kick, but it's rough on parts.
It's hard on cranks. I mean, just, Tim sheared his keyway a couple times. In fact, as bragging rights, he had innovator's weft. He sheared all the bolts from the hub to the balancer, just sheared them off. He thought he broke the crank.
That's the one with like several.
Bolts.
Yeah, I was going to say several bolts.
He broke all 6 bolts. He sheared them off. Luckily, I had a double keyway hub here, so I brought it from the house with a hardware kit, and then TJ gave him a balancer, and then I had the 10.5-inch pulley he borrowed from me last time he needed one at Ohio Cadillac race, and he put that right back on it. So it worked out good for him. He actually pressed through and fixed it, and then made it all the way to the finals. So it was really good.
What did he end up running at the finals?
I think he ran an 875 in the finals.
Yeah.
At 155. So I mean,
And it still wasn't great weather.
oh no, yeah, the DA was still crap, but I mean he's tickled to death, and he's always deep down inside. You always hope, oh yeah, man, once I get this thing dialed in, everybody talks game about how fast, or they always get that wonder slip that, look at the mile an hour, look at that thing, man, this thing's gonna fly, and they can never duplicate it. After that, it's the one. Yeah. It's like, yeah, I think the clocks were just off a little bit. Something was wrong with the clocks, because you could never duplicate it. So deep down inside, he wanted that car to be fast, and he was hoping it was fast, but because he had just beat himself, 9-0. And
it's that 9-0 blues.
The 9-0 blues, and then he went at 8-9-9-9-9. I was like, oh my gosh, but it was still a 9-0 that got lucky. I always call it 8-9-9, just a 9-0 that got lucky. It's still an 8, but still, it's not like you can go to the track and say, I'm going to go run 8s, because, well, it's got to be really good air.
Because if you sneeze wrong, it's going to,
Yeah, you eat a biscuit before you get in the car, it's going to run out of nose. So, yeah, but it was great to see his car actually settle and fall together. And
it was good. It was back to back to back. I like that.
Go round and round, and I didn't have to. He didn't have to worry about hassling me like, oh man, it's not shifting, or it's not this is that, or it's not doing something, and I need to tweak something on it. I was like, dude, I think this will, don't touch it. I think as you run it, it's gonna get faster and it'll settle in and you'll be good. I know it's a little off at the moment, and you want me to maybe tweak it, but just.
But if if we tweak it, it's gonna slow back down.
Luckily, his buddy Jonathan was there, and he was like, "Don't touch it." I was like, "No, I'm with you, man. I'm gonna say I'm on the board with you. We're not gonna touch it, especially with as many problems as he had fighting with it." So, and he's not the only one. There's a lot of guys that have been the exact same boat, and most of them, they went through all those breakage and 9-0 blues, and they said, "Bye, sold."
Yeah, they gave up.
They gave up. They tore up the transmission for the last time, or they broke a diff for the last time. They wheel hopped it one more time. And they said,
these guys, there's a lot of guys out there that are like, oh, I want to run 8s, and I've never have to rebuild the trans or this and that. I'm like, dude, you're going to rebuild that shit at least once a year.
Yeah.
I don't care what you say. You're not running 8s in a 4,000 pound plus car and not rebuilding a trans every now and then.
There's some guys that just treat them just right. Like, I haven't had that trans out in a while. There's a lot of guys that just race them, and whether it's the warm up or just not beating them part throttle, and all they do is race it. Like Felicia didn't go all year, and and she does the dragon drives and stuff.
Well,
and she'll take hers
it's
apart.
Women, because she got 36,000 miles. We pull the trans apart, and she's not nice. She drives like an asshole, and the trans is perfect. And I'm like,
yeah, Felicia.
Fucking how? If it was mine, it would have. Remember, I bricked the TCM at one race, and it's just always something.
Here's one thing that's a common denominator in a lot of guys that burn up their transes, aside from the guys that just beat the piss out of them on the street, doing the roll racing 3-4, 3-4, 3-4.
That's what she does, though.
But I'm just saying, follow me on this. Most of the guys that tear up their stuff are guys that are launching in first. They
never.
They spin, they floor it, it spins. They
let out and then back in it.
It shifts all the way to fourth, and then they just stand back in it. And wide open throttle, that thing has got traction, and it's trying to downshift back to first or second, and it usually binds up enough where it hurts a clutch. They don't know it yet, but in 3 or 4, whether it's that day or next week, they're like, man, this transmission's already starting to slip. I was like, yeah, remember last week when you spun like every pass and you, instead of just saying, oh, the pass is gone, you're like, you thought you're going to save the world and you're going to floor it again and do
once
something.
you spin, just let out,
It's like,
it's done.
It's over. It's lost. You flooring it again isn't going to save anything. And I told people, I was like, listen, if you're going to spin.
Then again, somehow she's spun, lets out, gets back in it, and still beats the next car.
If a lot of cases, the manual mode is a big saver. I was like, listen, if you're a big pedaler and you can't help it, it's just in your DNA, just put it in manual mode. That way when it upshifts and you stab back in it, whatever gear it ends up in,
it's still in.
Stays there. You don't have to worry about downshifted and you'll drive on. And that's one thing because Felicia does. She told me, she's like, oh, I always use manual. Was that okay? I was like, well, if that's what you've been using and are using and it's shifting right, that's great. Just make sure I know what mode you're using because I don't want to be adjusting pattern B when you're in manual mode.
Yep.
Be like, man, I moved that thing 2 miles an hour, didn't change a bit. I was like, oh, you're using manual, never mind.
Well, in the 8L90, they're nice enough to rapidly disassemble if you pedal it.
Oh, yeah.
Because they'll hit it, they'll burn out first, second, and they always whack, 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 and they let off, it goes to third, and then boom, they explode. Or if you're Tim, you're making 1,500 horsepower, it makes the 2.3, and it's like, yeah, we're not going to hang there to the floor.
We're going to leave the chat.
But, all right, so not to get too far off, the 1.7, or the 1.9, sorry, 1.9 and 2.3, the twist ratio, the rotor modification. What is it the twist ratio that makes that blower better? That's something I've heard before, and I don't.
The twist is a little better. Like where the rotor starts and stops is the same. Like if it starts at the 12 and the twist comes around and it ends at like the 6, it's the same. But when you make it shorter, when you go from a 2300 to a 1900, it does get a little more twist to it. It's not huge, but it is more twist, and it's a shorter. Just like running long drive shafts, they say, hey, when you got this long of a drive shaft, you got to have 2-piece because it goes into harmonics.
Yeah, if not, it's ripping the tail shaft off.
The shorter blower, you've got this big airflow envelope, and because you can spin it so hard, really, if you look at displacement, the little blower, because you can spin it 32,000, isn't far off at 2650 at 24. You know what I mean?
Right, because the displacement and the RPM.
Right, it'd just be like spinning a 376 8500 or spinning a 427, $6,000. You know what I mean? They're almost the same because of RPM, the window. So the biggest thing is trying to get a 2650 to live with more RPM is kind of what it comes down to. And I don't know if it's going to come with rotor games or case games or where it's at, but that's the next big thing. Whipple's got the 3.0 in the LS world now, and I'm sure the 3.8 isn't too far behind it. So
do you think those are going to be contenders, though? Because the 2.9 Whipple that we got, bruh.
Nothing against the Whipple, but the problem with the 2.9 is the architecture on it.
There was something wrong with the 2.9 because they eat themselves.
They're a paddle. They're a paddle design.
Okay.
So, you got this, looks like a paddle or proper, what do you call it, and you got the big lobes that it engages with. When you start spinning it, that paddle doesn't have the stability of that big fat rotor, and it starts moving, and it just starts chattering with the other rotor, and it just binds up. And because it's a thin paddle, it explodes. It'll start chattering, transferring metal, and before you even know what's going wrong, it binds up and just boom.
So is the 3-liter or the 3.8 different?
So the 3-liter and the 3.8, they changed the design on the rotors a bit. I think they went from a 5.4 or a 5.3 to a 4.3. And it's more of a lobe look than a paddle look. So they're a lot more tolerant with RPM. Right now, Felicia is testing the 3-liter Whipple on her car.
Yeah.
She had a Magnuson. She sent it to me to do some port work. She's been racing it for the last 2.5 years, and the rotors, she doesn't watch her. She wasn't watching it, and the rotors had been touching for a while, and they had chewed themselves really bad on the leading and trailing edge of each other. And I was like, hey, if I'm going to do a bunch of work to this blower, do some porting, and try to get you up, you really need a fresh set of rotors because these are trash. She was trying to make a race, didn't have time. She got a blower from Rashawn, brand new one. And they did I cleaned up the rotors, I recoated them, I sent it to Rashawn, I said, listen, the blower's fine. It's been a good blower. And he's like, this is just a show car, it'll be fine. Rashawn got his blower so she could make the next race. She did one pull and it locked up. Oh, the bearing. One of the bearings failed on the rotors, and it locked up. And it was just one of those freak accidents. Either something was unhappy with the rotor arc, with the vibration, or whatever it was. The support bearing came loose, and it just came apart. So then Rashawn just happened to get the Whipples in. He's like, listen, if Rick says it's okay, we'll try to do a Whipple. So they put a Whipple on their car, and we're testing with it. And Whipple's like, listen, they're ready to throw the sink at it. They're like, I don't care what it takes. You tell me what they're like, listen, tell me, you keep pulling it till you're faster. Because we know where we were at with the 2650,
right,
and we were moving. I mean, she got down to 8. Her car's always been 4,300 pounds. And I don't think she's ever chased a number because she's always had the trailer hitch on it. Or the factory
she's always constantly
she's
going.
She's always got some type of, not quite the ideal setup for just putting up a number. And she had got down to 860 at 159, I think, or 162. She got moving.
She'd been faster than that, 850, didn't she?
No, I think she was cut off right at 860. Like it was 860.
860 blues.
Yeah, and she was, and again, that's why I was going to port the blower, and her plan was to get the car down, because if she could go to 848, 849, get it in 840s, now she can go, because Texas 2K, the cutoff is 849.
I know. And you have to have a slip for it. And I was like, I know I can run that,
slip
but
video. I think you gotta have a slip and a video.
Yeah.
So, trying to get back into Texas 2K to race the street car, and she's just needs a slip. And I was like, man, we'll spray it. I don't care. But the idea was to do it on just blower, because I try not to push the nitrous angle, and we just ran out of luck. So now she's got the Whipple on it because that just happened to be the path she got stuck on. It was like, hey, this one was hurt. We didn't have time to get rotors. It was gonna have to go back to Magnuson. Magnuson was have to replace them. It's just a lot of tie up time. The one blower locked up, and then this blower, it just happened to be what we're on now. So we're actually testing a 3-liter Whipple, but it is behind the ball a bit.
Well,
so,
the 3 liters in the Gen 5 stuff, I've seen some issues where once we bolt them down, they lock up.
so far so good. We've done some hits on the street, and we've done a couple track passes, and we're starting to lean on it a little bit. And we did slow progressions. Like we started with we started with a 955 lower, I think, and we started a 3250 upper. 350. I don't know, we started with the big upper, and but it's a 3-liter, so I was like, we should be close, and it was off. We were down pound or two a boost, and the mass air was down. I was like, it's not making the power. And Whipple, talking to Whipple about what the RPM limits are, they're like, how about this? Go ahead and crawl up on pulley slowly, and we keep popping the lid. Like we make a pass or two, and look at the rotors, and we're watching the rotors, and we're looking for them to start chattering, or we'll look like they're getting unhappy. And we're kind of like, right now we're doing some development work and trying to keep an eye to see where the Whipple is good or bad at. Because the Mopar guys,
they seem to have good luck with it.
Yeah, but talking to Ziho, the big Mopar guy, he kind of gave me feedback of what pulley combinations they're running and when they're running into problems. So I was a little worried we weren't going to get the RPM out of it. But right now, we've been progressing forward. I think we're about even with the 2650 now, and it looks like we got a little more pulley to go. So we're hopeful that we can, make the bigger blower because it is a bigger blower. It should be able to make more power. It's like if you built a 454 for your car, you would think it'd do better than the 427. You wouldn't build a bigger blower to go slower. So we're hoping that with the bigger blower, we can go a little faster. So, Felicia's not really brand specific. Blue Sticker District has taken care of her.
Yeah.
And always worked well with her, and she's such a good person to work with. So, we're hoping to, again, we're all just trying to go faster.
Right.
If we could figure it out, and I told her, I was like, one thing we might have to look at is may have to tweak her cam. I was like, you got those heads. This is a bigger blower. Let's get it settled out. But once we get settled, let's maybe do a cam change and see if it responds to cam change, and maybe we can pick up a little more. So,
where do you think that on like the 1900, right? When you're comparing the ports that are mainstream, right, and then the modification that you do, how big of a difference are we looking at?
As far as going from like a standard CNC or going from stock to the CNC.
Like one you can buy versus what you're able to do.
That question gets a little vague now because if you can get your hands on like that Kong Race 138, or even if he starts making like a 120.
Well, I'm thinking something that's more conventional, like the 112 inlets or something. Because I'm trying to appeal to the average, right? Not the guys that are going to go to this custom stuff.
Like right now, let's see, who's got. Lewis has an old school, race blower. It's got like a hook mod. It's got a little rotor work. It's nothing over the top, but it is like a basic CNC case with a port match to it, and then it has a little hook mod to the inlet and and a little rotor work to it. And he's been. That car's probably a 860, 870 car.
With a 1.9.
With a 1.9 on a 4-door.
But do you think that anywhere near that is capable without that? Without the rotor work and without the...
I think if you had the right converter with an export, Kong's export with a port match on it, I think you could start getting close. The only downside on like the export, which is a really cool design, is it's a little soft on the hit.
I've noticed that before, where you make a little less boost, but up top it seems to...
But Tim Singleton, his is an export. That is an export blower that I did some work to. So really that's an export. Like right now, Tim Singleton, he has a Kong export. I wouldn't want to take away from me. I worked the blower. I did some tweaks to it, but that is an export blower. And I want to say right now that's probably the fastest, 4-door sedan export style blower.
On a cold day, that's an 860 car.
And I got, I want to say I've converted it. I think I've got a 120 throttle body on it now. So that would probably be the biggest thing that helped it, is adding a 120 to like an export.
Do you think the 112 over the 120, there's going to be a big...
The problem is like, it's the same throttle. It'd be like putting a 90 versus a 103. If they both bolt on, why would you buy a 190? You know what I mean? A 112 and a 120 is the same flange.
I guess I'm kind of asking for the bigger blower guys, like the 2650 guys.
I would tell you if you can put now
because we do have to change the snout.
Well, like on the 2650, the flange is the same for 112 to 120. There's like, it's like 3 millimeters. You know what I mean? It's you could grind it a little bit and poof, it bolt. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You can put a 120 on it. So I tell people, I was like, if you can. Just put the 120 on. It's again, that goes back to that. It's potential. You even if you won't get 10 horse because you're not spinning hard enough, it's potential. Like if you get to the level, you can use it. Why buy a 112 now when you're probably gonna need a 120 later?
So that kind of puts it. I've noticed the rhythm of potential. And that's a damn good way to look at it.
You always
even if it doesn't make it now, it may help later.
Yeah, you always lean towards potential,
So at what point do you think somebody should go, from a 1900 to a 2650?
That's probably the best question, because a lot of guys are like, hey man, why don't we just put a 2650 on? Why would I put a bunch of money in this 1900? Well, more often than not, it's the setup. A 1900 isn't going to drive over the keyway. You know what I mean? 1900 isn't going to run you out of fuel system nearly as fast. Your 1900 isn't going to break your crank, isn't going to buckle a rod. A 1900 has a big horsepower tax. And if you don't have a good enough build, a 2650 is going to blow a head gasket before a 1900 will. It's just the horsepower tax, whether you see it or not, whether you see it on the slip or not, it's there. The motor's paying for it, whether you know it or not. So usually the 2650 Crossroads is, where are you going and what do you have to work with? If you don't have the right platform to work with, stay with the 1900. If you destroyed your 1900, it's going to cost the same to replace it, then buy a 2650.
Right.
And just stay conservative on the pulley. Don't go crazy on the pulley and it'll be all right.
But if you want an 8-second car.
If you wanted to say you had a stock bottom end still and like, listen, I've got a low mileage stock bottom end. I want to try for 8s. Don't get a 2650.
Yeah, I was about to say, don't suggest that one, please.
Now, granted, it can go 8s, but the rod's going to
It's going to beat the rod out of it, yeah.
Right. Whereas a 1900, I was like, if you rev it hard enough, you keep the RPMs high, get a good enough converter.
Because you're moving the power out there.
Move the power band up, get everything right. Probably get an 8 out of stock bottom end with a 1900. But a 2650 is going to kick a gasket, break a rod, going to shear the keyway before you get to your goal. And it's just the,
It's basically depending on where you want to make the power at.
Yeah,
And I always tell the guys between the 17 and the 2650, I'm like, what do you do with it? Do you dig race it a lot? 1700, you can probably get out a little quicker. It definitely doesn't need near the amount of power to turn it. But if you're going to roll race, like 2650 is going to run you over.
I had a guy that had a built 403, and he had one of my old blowers. It was a race ported blower, but his car was heavy. There was a couple things, the intake could be better, the fuel could be better, just a lot of little things. And he got the opportunity to get a 2650, and he asked me what I thought. I told you something similar. I was like, let's see, you have some cheap H-beam rods, you don't have a double keyway crank, you don't have half-inch studs, you don't got a 6-bolt block. I was like, I don't know if you have enough fuel system or injector. And he's like, okay, well, I think I'll be all right. I won't pull it that bad. And
yeah, they will.
And lo and behold, it was almost like giving someone a checklist. He checked off every single block. He eventually kicked a head gasket. He broke a rod. Which in turn, he lost the car because he kissed the wall with it.
Jesus.
And, it didn't. He ended up fixing the car, but when you break a rod at 1,000 foot and the car catches on fire and you end up in the wall or something,
it's never the same.
And I think he broke the crank. The crank broke because the 4-inch stroke are a little more susceptible than the 366 because the journals separate a little more and they break in between the main journal and the rod journal. They shear off, which it just, back when we used to buy $600, $800 cranks, those nice cheap 4-inch stroke cranks to make 416s, those are just real susceptible to breaking. Not all of them did it, but if for some reason you got a crank that was just a little off, or maybe the grain structure wasn't quite right, or maybe you had a little more harmonics, or something wasn't balanced as good, or your cam wasn't happy, pushing a little too hard. I've broke H-beams and I've broke cranks. So I was like, man, I've shared keyways. So yeah, the 2650, it's not that you can't make power with it. You just got to know what you're getting into.
You have to have a setup. Everything comes down to combination, right?
You got to know what you're going into.
What is your thoughts on the 1700?
Man, there's some guy, Kong's tricking out. I've never worked a lot of 1700s. I know Kong's tricking out a lot of them, and
I mean, I'm with that stage 1 cam and stuff, ported heads, stock bottom end, 950 to 1050 is not abnormal.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'm like, is that because it's a DI motor? Or
DI motor and the cylinder heads play a lot into it, and I mean, and plus, the work that they're doing on the blowers. Again, it's a small blower. And if you
Kong's doing them, that's
right. You know what I mean?
Two.
You're still feeding. If you take, it goes back to the inlet restriction. If you're feeding it with a 103 throttle body, how much better is a 1900 over a 1700 where you do all the work to it?
Well, we don't have a way to get a bigger throttle body on the 1700 right now, Greg.
Oh, they're still.
Come on, Greg.
I don't think you've. Alec,
I've seen it, but I need it.
Yeah.
If I got that inlet, I would put a 17 back on my car.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people are like, oh, the 2650 is definitely faster. The violence that 1700 unleashes in cars that I've done back to forth, my car feels pretty violent. I mean, it's aggressive, but I've been in 1700 cars that feel so much more violent.
Yeah. It's a good little blower. Again, it's efficient. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's going to be your next staple. Once all the LSAs are gone, you're going to be rotor modding and porting the 17s.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I know Kong's got a bunch of stuff in works that he's getting ready to come out with.
And I think Alec made 11 something.
Yeah, and actually, I think Alec Bledsoe, he made over 1,200 horse. It's something ridiculous.
With a 17.
With the 17, yeah.
I mean, people can, bitch and moan, oh, it's on methanol and this. Okay, well, you fucking do it, bro. That's right. Crazy. You still got 1.7 liters making that kind of power.
Yeah. I think he's spinning that thing I don't know, he might be getting close to 40,000 RPM with that thing. Because I think he's spinning the motor. He's got all the pulley on it, and I think he's turning at 8,600. Now, granted, it's not like it peaks at 8,600, but he's spun it that far. So I want to say he's over. He's at $8,000 or better. So just take.
But I mean, with stock bottom end cars though, I'm making 1,050.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that wild to think?
Yeah.
I don't, and it's not like an abnormal thing either. So imagine once you start messing with those, the potential that thing's going to have is just unbelievable.
Well, and that was kind of what, when the big thing in the South, well, one of the big things that's going real big in the South is that, one power adder overdrive race.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of want to see them get away from, like, some of the races, like when we went to bragging rights, it was one power adder. It was one power adder overdrive, and the rules were pretty loose. The problem was they didn't specify foot brake, and they didn't say no 4L80s and stuff. So pretty much you could take a race car and put a 4L80 in it and have a trans brake and have big turbos and all this stuff. You didn't, with these races and stuff and trying to get car count and not having these huge, loose the rules of everything's got to go. You got to try to find a simple way to handicap the crowd a little bit. And I'd like to see him get that one power adder foot brake combination on the late model stuff to, kind of keep the turbo guys from dominating everything.
Well, and that makes sense because I remember Cal used to do it, right? And he'd do that little group and he'd talk about, we got to have this, we got to have this. And there was no trans brake on one of them. And I was like, well, because of the turbos we have, with no trans brake, we can't spool them. So we can't compete. And had we went to smaller turbos, foot brake, we could have got a little more competitive, but it absolutely made the field tighter.
Yeah, and I think
which makes the race better.
And if you can kind of cut out, because like all the races we go to now, it's all turbo. I mean, unless you get
because they sound so cool.
But you can only do, once you got a trans brake in it, you aren't limited to turbo size. I mean, the only reason you don't run bigger turbo is because I didn't buy it.
Yeah.
Or I didn't have a fuel system for it. I mean, really, it's just.
And the one power adder stops you from spraying the turbos to work foot brake.
Exactly. So I think you draw in a lot more of the Hellcats and the ZL1s and the C7s and those guys to come and play at those races, and you kind of entice the market to kind of candor into that group a little bit better. And I think they'll get faster if you just give them time and give them a chance to do it. So I hate to sound biased, but that's the way my G8 is. I've kind of stuck to it, and I've stuck to my guns because I think it's a good, it has potential. I mean, I've gotten my car fast, and
you went 7s with a 6L.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a goal I wanted forever, but with turbos, I couldn't make it happen.
Well, I want to tell if I said that 6 years ago, I was like, back before I even broke in the 8s, I was like, hey man, I'm going to take this same setup, I'm going to go 7s with it. They'd laugh at me, tell you you're out of your mind.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they tell them, I was like, what was your mile an hour? Yeah. 177? They're like, you're insane. There's no way.
But it's all that efficiency and making everything work together.
Making everything work together and getting the car working good, making power, just knowing the combination. And I'd like to see them cater to that style setup and try to get more cars in that group because otherwise you just start, like I said, the race world is all turbo biased. It's like all the rules are turbo biased, everything's turbo biased, and I get it. It's a big market in there. And they get a lot of sponsors for it, but the superchargers, all the companies and stuff, if they don't start stepping up and try to get something going to support what they're selling, and I was like, you're just gonna get left behind.
Yeah.
Step up your game or get left behind. No.
What about 10 speeds?
I love 10-speed stuff.
What is your thought on it in the V2?
I
won't have my opinion until we get back and we start running her car, but so far the way it feels is it's like if you took that car and made it the weight of a C7.
It pretty much just bolts right in. I mean, the cross member, everything, it's such a bolt in.
You need a different drive shaft, and if you have turbos, you have to move those.
Yeah.
So stay blower, right?
Yeah. But it all depends on what HP Tuners gives you for tunability on them.
All of it.
It's gotten better. It's gotten better.
All of it. I mean, pretty much everything. This is the only transmission that I can say do this, and I know it's going to do that.
It is. The operating system is a lot better.
I tell that converter to lock. That converter's locked.
In fourth gear?
Every gear. That's an 8-speed you're thinking of.
Oh, okay.
The 10-speed, it's there. It's money.
Yeah. A lot of guys have talked well of it. The main shaft in it's pretty beefy. You know, there's a couple things you update, and it sounds like it's a really good piece. So it's hard to knock it. You know.
Do you think it's going to be superior to the 6L?
The downside is some of the cost. You know, like converter cost is almost like for a race converter.
We put a stock one in it.
I got it, but like when you start getting hairy with it, you really want to chase a number unless you're light.
The converter's like what, $4,000?
It's up there.
Well, I think the conversion alone between the trans, the harness, the drive shaft, I think you're close to $10,000.
Yeah, and you know, that's the biggest. It's a big.
But if you shit a 6L, that was 5 or 6 to get rebuilt, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but you gotta get the drive shaft still. If you bring someone in from, like someone's just coming in, like someone's got like a V, and then listen, I want a 427.
Well, now you can buy shells. So.
Right. Well, you can tell someone's like, well, your transmission isn't built. You got a stock converter, and you got a stock drive shaft. If you come in now, the converter and drive shaft and the build will offset the transition cost. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But when you got someone that's already got a built trans, a carbon fiber drive shaft, they got a converter already. It's like, all right, now you got to do that all over again. It's a little more of a. Oh, hold on a minute. Yeah, stomach that.
But do you think it's going to make the cars faster? Like if we took a stock one and take the 6L out and put a 10-speed in it, do you think it's an advantage?
You know,
I still don't know because I really love the 6L90, but after driving her car, it's like it's so different.
I haven't seen anybody really show that it kills it or makes it slower. So
I definitely don't think it makes it slower. Yeah. I just don't know that I'm convinced it makes it faster yet.
Because it is how much more does it weigh? You got more clutches.
Well, it's not much more. It's actually not much more. It's actually a little narrower.
Yeah, it just depends on what the power penalty is. The power band, like if you had a Procharger car, hands down, 10-speed all day.
Well, with the turbo, that's what we're kind of hoping for, because her shifts are what are they 772 to like 69. 72 to 60.
Yeah.
There's like 400 to 500.
Well, yeah, but turbos don't usually fall out of their power band too much, but
they do when you've got to go into fifth gear.
Yeah. But
that's why we had to run a 30-inch damn tire because of that 1.15 fourth gear. When she was doing 165, and I'm like, 7,400 RPM. I'm like, what the hell? So we had to go to a big-ass tire, which killed the 60-foot.
Yeah, that big tire will
I know if we'd have kept a blower, we would have been fine. But
I'm hopeful too. I'm hopeful for it. It's just the crossover in cost and how much development work we got in this now. It's hard to say, oh, bro. You know, for someone that says, listen, I want to be an 850 car, and they say, should I do a 10-speed? It's like, ooh, man, that's a tough question because I hate to tell you do a 10-speed and be like, they do all the work and do everything for it, and it's like,
we just don't know, right?
I'm sorry, this ain't gonna work. And it's like, dude, I spent like,
10 grand.
I just dropped 10 grand doing this setup and all this work, and then you're telling me it's for sale. Go on. Because that's what happens if you start pointing someone down a road and you get to the point and that you realize that they've just wasted all their time. For sale sign and gone is so fast.
That's so that was something we noticed with the turbo stuff. We had posted, and I've always posted everything we've done. And here's what we've used, here's the parts, here's the stuff. Because I know that people aren't going to listen anyways. And I'm watching these guys get these, as soon as they order the 69 or 72 millimeter turbos, I'm like, they'll sell the car. And I'm like, 3 months down the line, they're selling the car.
There's a lot of Vs that, have gone turbos and they try to go with the, stay with the stock setup where they're mid mounts or they're using a non-trans brake or something, and I was like, you're not any faster.
No.
You know what I mean? You see these guys.
Well, I think a lot of it was just like what we did. We started with some 69 millimeter turbos.
Yeah.
And the dumb stuff that we had to do, 69 being too big.
Well, even
because we couldn't spool them. We'd be 4,500 RPM and 4 pounds of boost.
But a lot of guys will do like the mid mounts because they made those mid mounts kit and all the.
That's what we have.
The 62s.
But 62s,
The 64, 66s.
The issue is I thought 62s you could only make 11, 1200. My fault. So we went to 69s and we could never spool it. So we fought converter, bigger converter, more stall. I even went to no lockup. We took the lockup clutch out so I could flash it harder. And that's when I went 840. But I'm like, that's not even practical anymore. This doesn't make sense. What am I doing? But then I watched the Mustangs and they're like, Aldo Welds, 62s go 690. I'm like,
Oh, Mustangs are different. That's a small motor.
with a 10 speed.
Yeah.
Well, now we have a 10 speed.
Yeah.
But I think if more turbo guys would have not looked at, 62s as like, oh, they're not going to make enough power, and we would have focused on that, we would have went faster.
You do got to push the 62 pretty hard. It's not that you can't. You do got to push it a little harder. And the 62s are happier on a smaller motor like a Coyote or a 5.3 than they are on like a 6.2 or 416.
Right.
You know what I mean? You just start getting, what happens is you get your pressure bias, your pressure ratios just get out of balance. You're trying to make, you're having to kill the exhaust to make a little bit of boost, and they just need really bigger, it's more happy with a bigger turbo. It's not that you need it for power, it's just need it for the balance. There's something about the balance with the turbo and the motor size.
Well, I think the other thing that kind of killed some of the turbo guys were, and I hate to be like this, but the tuning, because these guys were tuning them like they were blower cars and not realizing that it's not flowing like a blower does. You can't time it like you did a blower car because you have something holding back heat in the cylinder. And they'd still put, 26, 27 degrees and torch everything down. They're like, I don't know what happened.
A lot of that comes from the charge. Like, I always say that a blower is always 4 pounds behind a turbo. Like 20 pounds on a supercharger is like 14, 15 on a turbo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just because you've got a runner on it, And a lot of times I'll tell guys, I was like, if you can, unless you're putting a big turbo on it and you're turning it, keep the stock LS3 intake on it. Just keep the stock intake. Don't.
We learned that. So
I tell people,
she went 850 with the LS3.
As soon as you put a short rudder intake,
we couldn't spool the turbos.
You can't spool it, and it loses all the mid-range. And on a heavy car,
and this is stuff that I just didn't know. But when we went turbo, there wasn't a lot of turbo cars.
I noticed that when you went from the LS3 intake and you swapped it over, I was like, I bet you can't get the number out.
Nope, I couldn't. I never could run it again. And same thing with hers. And we've even talked about it. We were like, with the 10-speed now, because we have a little more gear efficiency.
Yeah, if you can keep the RPM in the sweet spot a little longer, you can. But
we're going to go back to the LS3 intake because we want to get it lit off quicker. Yeah. Start it in second gear. Yeah. But that's factory converter flat. It'll foot brake 3,000 like nothing.
That's good.
Which is
what you need.
But we did a Gen 2, so it's the twin disc truck style.
Okay.
And I don't know. We'll see. We're going to post the results and see how it goes. But it'd be cool if, you could have a 10-speed with a blower and you're just efficient as hell from start to finish. But
there's some guys that get lucky and find like a cheap takeoff. Like they get like, if you can get a 10-speed.
Oh, you can get it for $800 in Houston.
Right. If you can get a 10-speed and get like your foot in the door cheap, I'd say, man, jump on it. Just give it a shot. If it's going to cost you an arm and a leg and you're paying, $10,000 for a swap, I'm like, I don't know. It's a lot.
I think just like the 6Ls, I've always told people, I'm like, dude, if the stock one's working, just run it.
Yeah.
With the 10-speed, if it's stock, just run it. I can't tell you how many ZL1s I have mid to low 8s with the stock trans. Yeah. And they don't have an issue. I've only ever killed one 10-speed, which to me is like...
They don't have much RPM drop, so they're not nearly as hard in the clutch.
Oh, that makes sense.
Because, you're taking a motor from way up here to down here. When the RPM drop's really close, even with... Because we lock the converters. Mm-hmm. So when you lock at the converters and you're bringing it down, it's like a manual just banging the gears. You're just killing the clutch. It's really hard in the clutches. Like if you could leave the converter unlocked in these cars and go just as fast, the trans would live way longer. But because we're locking them because we're greedy.
That was in the early days. I remember I had unlocked it and I'm like, I'm down 25 miles an hour. What the hell's going on? I locked it, boom, right back. I'm like, oh, we're doing that. But then for sure
it's tough on it. So usually what I do with the trans is I usually try to have just enough lockup pressure where it couples up pretty tight at the peak of the
But it comes
gear,
in softer.
And as soon as it shifts, it knocks the converter loose and then it recouples it. It's harder on the converter, but it tends to.
That's Circle D's problem.
It tends to, you know what I mean? You try to balance it. You try to get the converter and trans to last together. You don't want to be going through the transmission and not going through the converter. You want them all to kind of.
So that makes sense. That's why you said the other day that leaving it locked is so rough.
Yeah, if you manually lock it.
And I was like, I don't get it because
when you got max line pressure, oh my gosh, man, that's rough on the clutch.
Yeah, well,
if you got it where
we've learned that not to do that.
I want to say somewhere between 65 and 85 psi on the regulator offset. It seems to be a nice sweet spot for the lockup where it's not too much and it's not letting it slip, not too much, not too little. So it seems to be a nice middle ground. If you get too crazy on lockup pressure, like it can unsettle the car. Like the car will launch, and then halfway through second gear, lockup will come in, and it can knock the tires loose if the track isn't super good. I've had it happen to me. I've had it happen to Felicia, a couple guys. So I learned to kind of leave that lockup pressure a little soft, and then just kind of watch the slip of the teeth of the clutch, and then
Just make sure it couples.
Yeah, just make sure it doesn't have to be 100%. As long as it gets within 50 or less, by the shift, it's like, yeah, it's good. You just watch it,
But how long is the converter going to last like that?
Mine's still in it.
Oh, so they're fine. Okay, cool.
I want to say a lot of times they use that Alto G3 clutch, which is a really tough clutch. When we do the transmissions, man, I've tried them all. I've got the Robestus. I've tried those Robestus blues. They grabbed really good.
Until they don't let go.
Yeah, they don't like go. So I took because I take stuff apart and check it, and I pulled it apart, and literally the clutch stuck to the steel. It wasn't necessarily burnt; it just peeled off. It like just glued to it. I was like, well, I got them sitting on the table. I think I got a set.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's trying to follow them.
It's one of those things I meant to call Robestus on because these aren't in that bad of shape for blues, but they started.
Bring them back. Make sure it follows you here.
It's on him.
Oh, it's on me?
Yep.
Look at me.
It's
Look at the
only
clutch.
here.
Clutch. So you can't really tell, but you can see where the clutch here is peeling off. This clutch, it's peeling off. I wish I had the steels because the steels had a bunch of clutch on them. And it just, the clutch was transferring, the 3.5R clutch and this clutch, it was transferring. See, there's a bunch of bare spots on it where the clutch just ripped off it. And then you give it another pass or two, and the whole clutch is gone because once it starts sticking to the steel,
Yeah, it's not gonna.
one or two more.
Well, it's not gonna cool either.
The whole clutch is wiped out. So I meant to call Robestus to see if was it like a batch problem, but I have a bunch of, those are expensive clutches. Those are not cheap,
Yeah.
and they're supposed to be high temp, high abuse, high everything, and I was a little disappointed with them. But when you do stuff like that, you have to test it with, someone you know. Oh, that one?
Well, you walked in, it started following you.
Oh, yeah? How you doing? Yeah. What's that little android that...
The little robot thing?
Looks like little robot heads. Looking
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of creepy.
Watching you.
Like the government's watching me. So...
Anyways. All right, is there something that you want to cover? Anything you want to go over, or do you think we kind of covered it?
I think we covered it.
I think you're going to have to charge a subscription for this and be like, here, pay this to Rick to watch this video.
Yeah. But, all the racing I do, and I do it just to be out there. Because, that's one thing I preach to some of the guys that are in shops. I was like, man, get to races, get out there, show that you can...
Well, and it definitely breeds a different. Like I've had people that.
There's no point me preaching that. I think they should push. Foot brake, one power adder. Stuff, and let's go when I'm going to sit in the garage and not do anything about it.
Right.
You got to at least show that you're going to be out and participate and support it, and you want to see the racing culture grow. I mean, having that race at Rockingham at Bragging Rights, that was awesome. The track was great. It was a little bit. It was past. Like I want to say, usually April's my cutoff, so it was May. I was like, oh, okay, I'll do it. But it was right there. I skipped Texas 2K just to go to that race because normally I go to Texas 2K with the G8, and because of the no time deal, Nate Prater said, hey, as long as you go from January 1st for the rest of the year, no time, you guys can all run. and he had a really good turnout. We had 28. They had 32 registered, 28 showed, which is really good.
Yeah.
He had a full field, a lot of fast cars. I mean, it made for. I think that was some of the. That was some really good racing they had.
It was very tight, especially when they were getting to the finals. The matchups were so close.
Yeah.
I mean, it was literally that was it. It was over.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
those some really fast cars. So I'd like to see it keep growing. I like to see that them have two fields. Like cater to them. There's a lot of guys that do the overdrive stuff, but once you go to like the 4L80, that's almost like a gear vendor. You might as well put a gear vendor on a 400. What's the difference?
Yeah.
They both are a trans brake. You can put 400 guts in an 80, and that's not the idea of the class. You know what I mean? You're trying.
Well, the idea
really
of
the
class is the modern stuff.
Yeah, really, it's for a late model setup. It's supposed to be 6, 8, 10 speed stuff, and when you just say overdrive, it's like 4L80's an overdrive. Yeah, but you put it in a Mustang. It's a GM transmission. It's not even the right make and model. You might as well put an LS motor in your Mustang while you're at it. I mean, why not? I mean, you just put, a 4L80. So that's kind of like, I think they should kind of keep the brands together and kind of be a little more, maybe they could do where they have let anything go and let the Tom Baileys come in with their gear vendor drives and let them rock the world. But I think they should also have like a 1 foot brake, one power adder type overdrive race, because I think it'll bring in a lot of the guys that are like, man, I can't keep up with the twin turbo Coyote,
Well, unfortunately, they do the 1 power adder foot brake thing too. They just do it better.
Yeah, but still,
I know. It hurt me to say it. I promise it did.
Yeah,
but it is
still,
what it is.
I think it would tighten up. It bring some of the Mopar guys a little closer in with the crowd with their Whipples and stuff.
They've definitely gotten.
They're fast.
They've gotten way faster than they've ever been. Because I remember the heavyweight class when they would come in. I'm like, yeah, okay.
A lot of the guys with the Whipples, when it's overdrive, there's a lot of them are spraying. They've got their Whipples and they got nitrous on top of it, so they are pouring it to it. So.
And there's
Except for that Jeep.
That Jeep, boy, that Jeep was something. The white Jeep out there.
That Jeep was cool.
Boy, when that thing took off, I was like.
The SRT Jeep, that was what, an 830 car? You were in some 830s?
It was very low.
Yeah, it was very low.
It was flying. So
Not
again,
much look stuff.
I'd like to see that class of racing grow where you're not pushing guys into, well, the only way I'm going to compete is if I put a 4L80 in it, or.
Well, everybody, they want to put a 400 in it, and to me, we have a turbo 400 CTSV, and it doesn't get driven. It never does. You know where we take it? Cadillac Attack.
Yeah.
Because it's just not. It's just I don't know.
400s, you make things a lot simpler, but then you cross that bridge of. It was just like when I bought turbos for my car. I want to say it was right before I put the Supercharger on it.
There's turbos here.
No, I sold them.
I was gonna say I haven't seen a single turbo.
I had a pair of 64 66s. I had shorty headers. I had the intercooler. I had everything to do twin turbos on my G8, and the more I thought about it and the more I got parts together, the more and more I didn't want to do it, because in the end it's like, okay, let's say I build a twin turbo G8. Do I want to build twin turbo G8s over and over and over, or SSs, or it's kind of like that's what a lot of the shops are doing now. They're just building turbo cars, and I was like, you know what?
Which we did, but we also didn't have the knowledge and the availability to push those blowers.
My customer base was all superchargers. I was like, do I really want to take all the supercharger guys I got and try to get? It's such a pain. It's so much more work. It's such a pain in the ass. I'd rather port a supercharger. And put a 10 rib on it than build the turbo kit and put intercooler and everything on it. I was like, and then tell them
That's the best argument I think I've ever heard.
and then tell them it's like, hey, how do I go fast with this? I was like, we need to put a 400 in it. You know what I mean? We got to put a trans brake in it, or you know what I mean? Because once you get to a point, it's like, well,
to get that fast,
you're gonna have to put a trans brake or something in it. We're gonna have to put more turbo, or so we can build more boost or whatever. And
I think the fastest foot brake turbo car right now still would be Matt, right?
Yeah, I think
he went 830.
830, yeah.
Yeah.
For now.
But it's still.
Yeah, wait till that. If that 10-speed does what we think it does,
So
your blower days are over, bud.
okay, but look, going back to the race classes and rules.
We're gonna put a trans brake on it.
There's no rule that says you have to make a foot brake work so everybody goes to a trans brake. You know what I mean? If
they want their transmission to keep going, though.
I know, but what I'm saying is there's no culture out there that shifts people to try to make a foot brake setup work. There is no. Everybody just gets to the point. Oh, I want to go fast. Put a trans brake in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no culture or race class that says I have to run a foot brake. So why would I waste my time? Why would I give up all that light on the line against a trans brake car when I can have one? I was like, it's just a culture thing. I just think that they should cater to it better.
And they might.
They might.
We don't know.
Like a bunch of like grudge classes that are only for
Yeah, but it's all grudge classes.
There are right now. So there's Popeye the Sailor
Yep.
Man. He does that. The 4 horsemen, which is invitational, and then he's got the 1 power out of 1 foot brake overdrive class. But you have to be 1 complete year of no time before you can run in it.
Which for me, I have guys that run in it, which is really cool, but like for a tuner, it's not really good.
Yeah, you can't really. But
It kind of sucks because it's like, and the crap part is like, all of my like crazy fast setups are grudge cars, and I'm like, I hate you all. So, I don't know. All right.
We'll see how it goes.
Well,
Good talking to you.
I appreciate this
Glad you
more
came
than you
out.
know. I guess
Glad you finally got that.
I've got to go do the
bucket
dirty
list.
favors now.
I'm glad you got your bucket list checked and one more off your bucket list.
That was it. Look, this was 100% worth it for me. I learned more here, even though we've talked a lot.
We didn't even get to talk about nitro yet either.
Guess we'll have to come back.
Yeah, she'll have to come back.
Yeah.
To another time.
Unless you want to give out a tip on nitro.
Nitro stuff. It's.
He threw it in there.
How brave are you? Is what it comes down to.
I'm not. I
How
got
good is your
nervous.
tune?
Remember, you were like, "Hey, put some M1 up." You know what? Just put M5, and I'm like, "Well, I'm going to do the M1."
Oh man, there's all kinds of things that you tell people do, and they just, they talk themselves out of it. As long as you got the fuel system for it, I mean, if you got a meth injection car, you can spice it up. If you got an 85 car, it mixes with it. You just got to know that stuff is some angry stuff, and you can't just put it in your car and like park it. It's like, better get that shit out of your tank.
It'll eat it,
Oh yeah, it's nasty aggressive.
but that's why you put it in a meth kit.
Right, because that pretty much all that stuff is immune to it. So when you got like an auxiliary meth injection, it kind of isolates it. So, but you got to have enough fuel for it. When you start making a lot of power, you just run out of fuel to use it. So that's
Yeah,
the
because it's
biggest
like 1
handicap.
point something to 1, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's the only fuel that's heavier than water. Like a barrel of nitro is 500 pounds. I think it's 50-50 is 500, and methanol.
And that's half methanol.
And methanol is 360.
Jesus.
Yeah, you can pick up you can pick up a 5-gallon can and feel the difference on it. So a lot of times, it's a big NA player. So a lot of guys,
It's big in the NA scene. And
Right.
you
So
know,
there's-
as Ryan said, it makes a small block a big block.
right, and you got LS guys that are trying to still, they're not trying to change their game. They're trying to be like, hey man, is there anything I can do to
Not lose to a C7.
not lose to a bolt-on, Gen 5? And I was like, yeah, we could start, spicing up with some nitro in it. You just gotta.
Which is
come
good
up-
for the blower stuff, not good for turbo guys. Yeah.
But for the NA guys, it's easy. Most of them got enough fuel system, or it's easy to put enough fuel system in it, and then they always got 85-pound injectors or bigger, so it's not hard to put a little nitro on an NA car. On a blower car, oh my gosh, you run out of fuel so fast.
What about just adding it as the meth, though?
You still got to add, like, going back to when I had C16 on it, I had 33% in it, and I was running that thing at like 10.0. It was a little slow at 9.6 AFR, and when I got to like 10.0, the ET peaked out. I went to 10.30 and it didn't pick up any, so I kept it right around 10.0. And
Yeah,
that's
because when you
what
start messing with nitro, you feed it until it stops being hungry.
Yeah, and it eats fuel.
Right,
It's just,
but I know a specific person that they tried nitro and then they were like, "Oh, I'll run it at the same air fuel," and I'm like, "You have a motor left?" They're like, "Well, it ate the head pretty bad," and I'm like, Yeah, dude, you probably should have done some research.
It likes being, if you run it. So I had an NA car, and he wanted to play with the nitro, and we had 20% in the tank. I can't remember if it was 85 or 20%, but it was the mixture was about 20 to 18% nitro. You couldn't even run that thing on Stoich anymore. If you kept it like...
Yeah, you can't idle it there. You have to idle it like 12, 8, 13.
When the timing jumps, trying to
It'll
hold it idle
detonate.
when it chops, yeah, it rattles.
Yep.
It'll just sit there and rattle. But, people ask us, like, how do you make your exhaust chirp? Put nitro in it.
Yeah.
It'll start chirping.
I remember the first time I did nitro in an NA car, I was like, hey, dude, you put this fucking motor together right? And he's like, yeah, man, I know it's right. I'm like, dude, you need to take this apart. There's a bolt in there. I legit thought there was a bolt in the timing cover. He took it all apart. And I'm like, what the hell is this? I called Ryan, and he's like, oh, that's normal. I'm like, dude, that doesn't sound normal. This sounds bad.
It chirps. So usually what you end up doing, I tell people for 20%, if you have like a car that you have an 85 tune-up in it, just take the fuel curve and just turn off the O2 correction and put 20% across the board.
Yeah.
And then add fuel on top of that for power enrichment. You don't have to go too crazy on power enrichment on it, but driving around, it cannot be at Stoich. It'll sit there. It'll rattle driving down the road. It'll rattle idling.
Yeah.
You have to add 20. You add 20% to it, and you can drive around on it. But don't plan on the gas addict lasting long because it drinks it.
Yeah. But I mean, on the blower stuff, is it as reactive as it is to the NA stuff, or is it just so dangerous that it's...
It is. It's just, again, you need so much injector. Like, I got 2600s, like on a 2650 car with a 2650 car with ID 2600s with a JMS on a pump and big triples like a 295 and then two 285 pumps, the Hellcat pumps.
Yeah.
And a JMS, I barely have enough injector with meth injection when you push them.
That's crazy.
So usually,
is that 20% though?
No. I'm talking if you put like 5%, the M5 in like the meth injection, it's all you can do to keep enough fuel in it. Lewis's 1900 car, he's got ID 2650. He's got a 1900 with 2600 injectors, and it's all I could do to keep enough fuel in it just for methanol. So the nitro game, man, you got to have a ton of pump.
So you're talking just with M5?
I'm just talking M1. So to add M5 to it, man, you've got to have a lot of pump. You got to start. That's when you start getting away from.
I think people misunderstand just going to methanol alone how much more fuel it is.
Oh
It's almost 3 times the fuel.
So on my car, we'll just take my G8's a little harder because I'm so limited on the operating system. So I usually run flex fuel on it. But
You still run that on a stock computer?
Yeah, E38. Rocking and rolling.
63 limit?
Yep. Rocking and rolling with 2,600 pound injection.
Jesus.
Idle's fine, drives fine, starts fine. And then I flex fuel it. So, but when I go from methanol to 85 to keep the injectors from getting, because I run so much pressure on methanol to keep them getting unhappy. Like I run or give or take 68 psi with no reference. When I go to 85, I back it all the way down to like 38 to 40 pounds.
Jesus.
But I go drive down the sheets, put 85 in it,
and it's fine.
It drives fine, runs fine, starts fine, and it has plenty of fuel because the injectors are huge.
So on the blower cars though, have you put the nitro in the blower car though?
Yeah, with race gas we run like C16.
Oh, that would be the way to offset it. I thought you weren't supposed to mix nitro with petrol.
Don't mix it with meth injection.
Oh, okay. Okay, now I'm following. Okay.
So
I was like, wait a second, that doesn't...
You run however hot mixture in your meth injection, and then you run like a C16 or some C23 or something pretty damn good in your port injection.
Right.
And then you just got to, like I said, you start out really rich. Because if you don't, kiss it goodbye.
Yeah. This is not a recommendation for the average person out there because you're going to have to...
You got to have balls to do it because if it goes wrong, it's going to go all the way wrong.
Yeah. I'll just add the US nitrous. Way easier. Way easier.
Nitrous is way easier, but it's just bottles and the meth injection.
Well, when you only spray 100 shot, that bottle lasts quite a while, especially when you only use it for roll racing.
Yeah.
I'm scared at the track. Like I said, you saw what the diff and trans did last time Wendy drove it.
Well, just like a lot of guys that got, like even some of the, the NA guys, they got meth injection, just because they're making a lot of power. And, you don't know if someone's got hot gas in it, whether it's CD5 or not, unless it's running on it. It smells clean. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, on the blower cars, it's, you start making a lot of power with the 2650s or even that setup, it's almost impossible to run hot gas on a meth injection just because you can't get enough pump to it or injector. Like if you had a aftermarket fuel system and you can put those big injectors in it, or run a mechanical pump or something where you can run the pressure up to 80 pounds or something, then you can start playing around.
Yeah, because at some point the electric pumps are going to be a diminishing return trying to keep up with the voltage they're going to need, amperes they're going to need.
Right, you start getting voltage drop in the system, the alternator doesn't keep up or something, so that's when guys start going mechanical pumps. So if you see a mechanical pump on a car, you're like, what are you running for fuel? I think Cal with their 2650 car, I think he runs like with because they're turning it harder than anybody I know on a 2650, and I think he's running like 110 pounds base pressure or something like that.
Jesus.
Like 90 pounds. It's something ridiculous, but they got a mechanical pump, so they can do it. Electric pumps just won't do it. So.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed what we had talked about with the M1 deal. I haven't really actually said anything about it, but we're here. When you told me to throw a little bit of it in the gas tank and just watch the flex sensor.
Yeah.
And on average, that picks up 30 wheel almost every time.
And you can run it rich.
I was going to say, and it seems like it doesn't matter where because I move the AFR around after I've done that, and it's like, it doesn't care. Yeah. Literally 12.2 to 11.2 doesn't make any difference in power.
Because a lot of times guys will go get pump gas and like, oh man, I had a little too much 93 in it, and I'm only at 58 or 62%. I'm like, well, it's race day. I was like, spike it. And it'll spike it till you get it to like 90 or so, and
yeah,
as long as you got enough fuel and it works.
And I did it. But I wanted to do it on my own car because I was like, if I kill something, I want to make sure that
if you post it online, the keyboard warriors will beat you up every time. I was like, you can't do that. I was like, okay.
Yeah, well, don't do that.
You shouldn't do that.
Yeah,
it's way too fast for you. Don't do it.
Yeah, bad idea.
So,
but does that same theory work with M5?
Can. It's no different than running like a 65.
I know you told me to, but I was scared.
You can do it with
I even had the M5 there. I have it in the back of the truck.
Again, anytime you go 5, 10, 15 or whatever, you just have to know how to run it richer. If you don't run it richer, you're going to run into problems. When we ran, Cal used to be big when he had his sedan. He always ran M5. Just what he ran. Tuned it on a dyno, and it made power. Like when I used to run, back when I ran race gas, like a C16, I ran meth injection. When I put M5 in my meth injection, I think it picked up, it was like a straight up 10 or 15 horse, just for running it in my meth injection. And Cal, I think he picked up, going from M1 to M5, I think he picked up like 33 horse. But the problem was like when he would dyno it, like a lot of times you go to the track and run it, it would lean out on a pass, and he ran into problems where he, burned torched the head between the cylinders, or
he torched a lot of heads. I remember y'all welding it and coming back.
Yeah, he bent a rod once, like he buckled a rod once, something like that. And they were the Cali's enforcer rods.
Jesus.
So, I don't think they might not have been enforcer, but they were a Cali's I-beam rod, and he buckled them. He's got a couple of them, and it's, if you don't get the tune-up right and you run it a little lean, it will. There is no forgiveness.
I'm seeing it a lot in the Gen 5 stuff because people are putting port injection on them and then they're still running them at like 12.5, 12.7, and I'm like, well, one, you're...
And that the timing, they try to get away with the same time when they start going to port.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Gotta back off on the timing on it, that it isn't as forgiving when you start adding port to it, but it's a learning curve.
The sad thing is they don't realize it until it's like too late. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, it must have been something else, and they'll just keep doing it to people's cars. I've several of them I retune and they're like 12.7. I'm like, oh, we're not doing that.
Same thing will happen with tuners. They'll swap over to a 416 and bump the compression up and think that the 26 degrees they had on their 9-to-1 motor is going to still work, and then they nuked the brand new motor on the first pull.
Well, like I said, entry. I'd tell people where to find you, but we're in an undisclosed location.
Yeah, we're in an undisclosed location. That's right.
If you need to reach out to them, get you a pigeon, send it to Dan Hoare, have Dan Hoare send it here. It's usually the best route.
Yeah.
But I appreciate your time. I really do. You know that.
Yeah.
I've told you that several times over the years.
I know you've been trying to get this for a while. And,
It's worth it, man. It's just, this is information that it's out there if you know to find it and if you know to like just watch all the stuff you're doing. But I don't think it's out there enough to where people could just consume it all at once.
It's hard because, you know, back in the day when stuff was on the forums, it was easy to just follow a post, follow a link, and you just read the thread and it's there. You can look at it anytime you want. Now stuff gets posted on Facebook or it'll be at a race, and then
It's gone.
tomorrow, if you didn't save it or remember it or memorize it, it's gone. And it's not like the days where you keep you have your favorite magazine articles in your magazine rack. You know, that stuff is, all the paper days are gone, so it kind of sucks.
So now we're going to put your history on YouTube so you can have it there.
YouTube, so I can find it someday if they look.
It's going to help a lot of people. I'm telling you, you're going to see cat over temp in everybody's tune now.
I know.
They're all going to, and they're all going to fuck it up. But like, they're all going to use it.
You know what? You gotta try it. You know, if you ain't fucking up, you ain't learning anything. So hopefully you don't fuck it up too bad. The worst it'll be is get a little too rich. Or it'll be in all the time and they won't know it.
Yeah.
So, but.
Or you'll do it on a C701 and I'll laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. But, yeah, the idea here is keep the blowers alive.
And the one power out of foot brake overdrive.
Yep. And one power adder, foot brake overdrive stuff going.
All right.
I'm all for it.
Well, thank you again, and tune in to our next video.
Yep. Wonder if twin power's activated.